An ETF is one of the best investments that you can make every single year within your portfolio. But exactly what is an ETF and what are the best ETFs to invest in right now? Let's go ahead and break it down. I did a little bit of research over the last few days and found what I think are the 7 best ETFs. I'm going to give them to you here for free, okay? But also, there's a very important warning that I'm going to give you about these ETFs too, so you want to make sure you stay tuned for that. First, what is an ETF? That is an exchange traded fund. The way I like to explain this is it's like an all-star team. I don't have to choose the best stocks. I don't have to do all that research and hope that this one company is going to be the thing that's going to make me or break me. I just get the best teams all at once. So instead of choosing Microsoft and Amazon and Tesla, just get an ETF that has all of those in it and you can benefit. Also, it lowers your risk because if one company doesn't do well, you can have another 1,000 that can support you in case the one thing that you thought was going to do well does not. So that is what an ETF is, basically how it works. I want to also set the baseline. Baseline meaning what is the average, right? Because I want to do better than average. Each one of these ETFs do that. Right now, the time that we're doing this video, in the last 6 months, the S&P 500, that's the bar, the top 500 companies, the largest 500 companies rather, inside the US is up 6.6%. And in the last year, the stock market has been up 20%, okay? 6.6, 20. That's the bar we're trying to meet. So let's go ahead and start. The first one is VUG. That is the Vanguard Growth Fund. They're up 11% in the last 6 months and up 41% over the last year. Some of the biggest companies inside of this ETF, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Nvidia, you're going to see that is going to be common because, again, Nvidia by itself did, what was it, 200% or whatever it was in the last year or so. And if you had that inside your fund, the fund is going to do well. So you're going to, again, see that be common throughout here, which is going to play a big factor in the warning that I'm going to give you. But VUG makes the list here. They're in no particular order. Next here is the Vanguard Russell 1000 Growth Fund. The Russell 1000 is a lesser known index. Everybody talks about the Dow Jones, which is the 30 largest companies in the US. Everybody talks about the NASDAQ. That's the tech stocks. Everybody talks about the S&P 500. But nobody talks about your boy Russell, okay? The Russell 1000 is the 1,000 largest companies in the US. And this is the growth fund. So they're looking for companies within the Russell 1000 that are also growth companies. They are up 12% in the last 6 months and up 39% over the last year. Next, we go down to the Quality Factor Index, which perhaps has the most unique name here on the list. And it actually has a lot of my favorite stocks here too. They are up 9% in the last 6 months, up 26% over the last year. When I talk about some of my favorite stocks, and I'm just kind of scrolling through the pages of what's inside of this fund. At the top of the page, you see companies like Visa, a company I've had for a very long time, Broadcom that we've talked about before, ABGO, we talked a lot about that inside our members only a few weeks back, and then Eli Lilly, which I've been talking about for a very long time now. This is the 4th year I'll be talking about Eli Lilly, okay? So that is just some of the companies within this fund. Obviously, they have dozens, if not hundreds, of stocks here. It doesn't mean that, you know, the Microsofts and Googles of the world aren't also here, but the fact that this one stood out to me really shows that it could be a bit more diversified and a little bit more balanced, if you will, compared to some of these others. What you want to avoid sometimes is a fund that is too top heavy, meaning you got all of your money in just 5 stocks and then everybody else gets, you know, the scraps. So you want to be careful of that. Next here is perhaps the most popular ETF, I would say top 2 or 3 most popular ETFs. It is so popular it has its own commercials. That is Invesco QQQ. If you have ever watched a college program, meaning basketball game, football game, volleyball, whatever, you have likely seen a commercial about this ETF. And I get it because it's good. So the stock is, or the ETF rather, is up 12% in the last 6 months, up 49% in the last year. Double take there. And that is because it's all tech, and tech did incredibly well last year. And again, this has been a very, very good ETF for more than a decade now. Again, it's tech forward, and it's the 100 best tech stocks, which basically means the 100 largest tech stocks. So all the companies you're thinking right now, at the top of your head, yes, it is likely inside of this ETF, and is one of the reasons why it has done so well. I mean, think about, you got Netflix and Tesla alone. That's going to help you, especially if you're talking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years in running. That's going to run up your numbers. Okay, so QQQ is one that is obviously on our list. Next here is the S&P 500 Growth Index, that is SPYG. This one's up 9% in the last 6 months, up 29% over last year. Very straightforward, very simple. It's the S&P 500 except for the growth stocks, or with the growth stocks only. Put it that way. It's a little flip there, but that is the next one here. It's super straightforward. We know what the S&P 500 is. Just take the growth stocks from that. There you go. All right, next here is the Fidelity NASDAQ Index, and the stock symbol here is ONEQ. ONEQ is up 9% in the last 6 months, which is solid, and up 39% over the last year. So those are the 7, but what is the warning? Okay, what do you need to be concerned about? Because here's the thing. If you have made it to this point in the video, there is somebody out there right now, okay, it could be you, right, where you say, all right, I've written out all of these names. Let me just go to my investing app. Public is one of my favorite investing apps. That link is in the comment section below. But you could say, I'm going to take all these and just invest in them right now. Don't do that. Do not do that. The reason why you don't want to do that is because you're going to have a lot of duplication, and then you can increase your risk when you're really not trying to do that. I would suggest choosing 1, maybe 2 from this list. So for example, it might not make sense for me to have the Vanguard Growth Fund and QQQ, because I know that that one has a lot of Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Nvidia. Well, what do you think QQQ has? Pretty much the exact same thing. So if those companies don't do well, you're losing in both ETFs at the same time, and that's going to really hurt your portfolio a bit more. If you want more diversification and you want a less aggressive approach, meaning like, hey, I'm okay with beating the S&P 500 by 5% instead of 20, then one of the S&P 500 funds or the Russell 1000 fund might be the best for you, because it's not just tech, it's spread out between a bunch of different categories. So we know about the S&P 500, it is pretty well diversified between 500 different stocks. So one of those two, if you want to be less aggressive and passive and say, look, I'm okay just beating the S&P 500 by a little bit, or if you want to be more aggressive, then you want to check out one of those tech forward stocks like I keep saying stocks, ETFs, that are a little bit more forward. So that is how I would balance that. 1, maybe 2, okay? Do not invest in all of these at the exact same time. The other warning is that you want to be careful around the level of duplication that you may have. So let's say for me, I don't own QQQ. And the reason is I have already a good chunk of my portfolio is already in Nvidia, already in Microsoft. I still got a lot of Amazon. I have a lot of Apple. All the top stocks within QQQ, I already own as individual stocks. It doesn't make sense for me to own QQQ because I already own those individual stocks. So it's just gonna hurt me more. So for me, based on my own portfolio and what I own, I might go with the Russell 1000. I might go with the S&P 500 Growth, just to kind of spread things out just a bit. Okay, it's not going to save me. It's not going to be the perfect solution. That's what I would do. You need to take a look at your portfolio and see which one fits for you. Okay, whatever you do, don't just buy them all. Okay, and whatever you do, make sure you check your portfolio first and see which ones are going to be a bit different. Insider members only, this week I'm going to show you how to break down these ETFs. We talked about this before last year. We're going to do an updated version, so you'll make sure you check out our members only. The other thing I'll tell you too is, I've talked about the duplication mistake. There are other mistakes that you want to make sure you avoid. To learn how to avoid those mistakes, you want to check out this video right here.